last week we all got an insight into the wonderful concept of the intrinsic and extrinsic illusion. Before I go on to expand, if there are any questions from the last week's explanation, I'll be very happy to take them so that I understand where you all stand with the understanding. So feel free to ask any concerns. If not, I'll give you a brief overview and I'll expand further. Yes, Ramji.
My question is that you said intrinsic is partial realization and extrinsic is partial realization and intrinsic is full realization, right? And later in the explanation, intrinsic is, or let's say extrinsic is that you see all the three, that is the illusion, the object, and the medium. While in intrinsic, you see only one. You see either the illusion or the object. If my understanding is correct, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So, instinctively, it looks to me that if you are able to see all the three, you are more evolved than if you are able to see only one of the two. Because the mother could see all the three, she, like the example you gave of the snake and the rope, right? And the boy saw only the illusion, or he had only one, either the rope or the snake. So I thought the mother was more realized than the boy. So why extrinsic is not full realization and why intrinsic is full realization? I couldn't understand that.
All right. Okay. Now, I wanted to present this a little later, but your question prompts me to clarify this. The question which Ramji is asking is, when you cross the extrinsic illusion, we said in the context of mantra 6, one reaches a state where you have transcended or you've reached a state of partial realization known as savikalpa samadhi. And once you cross the intrinsic illusion, you reach a state of nirvikalpa samadhi, which is the total realization. The question is, why is it that way? Why can't it be the otherwise? Is that what I understand you correctly, sir?
Yes, sir.
Right. Now, from the points I've just presented, when one is caught up in the illusion, what one experiences is you experience a sense of plurality. And as you come to the state, when you cross the extrinsic illusion, you experience a duality. A duality is where there is only two, that is you and so the plurality disappears. When you're caught up in the illusion, you see a plurality of names and forms. You only see differences in everything that you experience. There is different name, there's different color, there's different guna, there's different attributes. You see everything as individual elements. So there's a multitude to deal with. But when you reach a state of partial realization, the plurality becomes dual. And the dual is you and God. There is you and Brahman. So the entire pluralistic phenomenon merges into one Brahman, but you experience that one Brahman. So there's still two there. The plurality becomes Brahman and you experiencing that Brahman. So there is duality. And when you cross that extrinsic and come to the intrinsic illusion, you merge with the reality. So at that state of total realization, you become the non-dual. There's no more two, there is only one. It is not you experiencing God, there is only God. You become that very God yourself. You become the very truth yourself. There is that subtle difference between extrinsic and intrinsic. So the stage from where we are to the extrinsic, the plurality disappears and duality appears. And duality disappears and non-dual appears.
Okay.
This is the path of evolution. Does it help you understand to what you asked?
Yes, Guruji. I think I saw it. Maybe when you explained last time between extrinsic and intrinsic, I saw it only in the context of the object and the illusion and the medium. Of the examples you gave that time, but I think now this explanation is better. That extrinsic, you see many forms and names, and it is pluralistic. Intrinsic is where you see only duality, that is, you see yourself and Brahman, and the final target or goal is oneness, which is the non-dual, which is where you merge with Brahman. The path of evolution. This makes it more clear. So the first one is extrinsic, and then the second one is intrinsic. And the third one, I suppose, is also a part of intrinsic. Non-dual is also.
No, the first is not extrinsic. First is the illusion. You are caught up in the illusion.
Illusion. Okay.
As the point is mentioned, when you are caught up in the illusion, you experience plurality.
So that is okay.
Which is where we all are.
Right.
We all are completely immersed in the illusion. We all are victims of the illusion.
Right.
The delusion we all experience is the plurality. Until you reach that state where there is no more, as we say, nama rupa, the names and forms of the world disappear. There's no more nama rupa. Whatever you see, whatever you experience, is nothing but Brahman and Brahman alone. If somebody criticizes you, you see Brahman in it. If somebody endorses you, you see Brahman in it. You see a Brahman in a sinner, you will see Brahman in a saint, you will see Brahman in garbage, you will see Brahman in idol. Everything is Brahmamaya. It is only God and God alone. If you see anything other than that, it is your own illusion. And we are seeing everything other than Brahman. Yeah. What are we seeing? Plurality. Therefore, we are caught up in illusion. We are still caught up in delusion. Long way to go. Long way to go. I'm talking of myself. I'm not talking of anybody. You talk for yourself. I talk for myself. Why should I invest my time in finding out where you are and where you're going wrong? That's your business. MYOB. Mind your own spiritual business. I will mind my spiritual business. I will transform myself. You transform yourself. I will not meddle with your progression. You don't meddle with my progression. What can I do for your growth? I can't do. I can't do anything for you, nor can you do anything for me. So in that spirit, I'm saying, but I'll do everything to help you grow. You should help me everything to help me grow. I will not do anything derogatory for your devolution. So you should not do anything derogatory for my devolution. That's a spirit, that is established spirit. But ultimately, you got to be serious of your development, isn't it, sir? So there's no contradiction, sir.
Okay.
Am I right, sir?
Yeah.
Right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yes. Yes. Hariji. Hariji, you may have to please rename yourself. I think it appears as something else because it helps the person
borrowed it
to
from my
locate
wife. I have borrowed the equipment from my wife.
it. So the path of wisdom will go to her also. Huh?
Yeah.
So
Equal
please share
share.
that also with her. Equal share. Okay. Sir. Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
The stage when we process extrinsic illusion to intrinsic illusion, can we say that stage as I find me in all and all in me? That is, I don't find any, I find myself everywhere.
Correct. That's how you would announce that experience.
Yeah, that, which means in the intrinsic thing, I and the Brahman, the difference. Otherwise, everybody is in me. I identify myself with everybody. There is no difference between me and she or he.
Right. Which is mantra 6, he's saying. He says, he who indeed perceives all beings in the very self and the self in all beings.
Okay.
That is partial realization. The verse spells it out. The mantra spells it out. Is it?
Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, Tinkima. But we can't hear you.
Now it's done. Okay. I had a similar doubt. When we cross extrinsic illusion, we reach partial realization. That is, you said, savikalpa. Then you cross that and you reach intrinsic illusion. And you have to cross intrinsic illusion to be self-realized.
Yes.
Oh. I was confused. I thought intrinsic illusion is equal to self.
Sorry. Again, you have been muted.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, so actually I thought intrinsic illusion is self-realization. Then how is it illusion? That was my confusion. Thank you.
Right. Sushmama.
Can you hear me, Guruji?
Yes, ma'am, please.
Guruji, I haven't understood very properly, but little bit now you have explained. It's making it a little clear. And as you said that first we have to, in the extensive illusion, we are, as we said, we are 3. And in the intrinsic, we are only 2, like the snake and the rope. So the partial is the extensive illusion. Is that true? And then when we come to intrinsic and we are able to understand that, then we are on a higher stage.
Right. See, when a person progresses in the spiritual field, what happens is the differences and the demarcations that starts disappearing. You start experiencing a sense of oneness with the totality. The opposite of experiencing oneness is a sense of separateness, a sense of differences. And it is the differences, it's a sense of otherness that creates an abhorrence. It creates an animosity, as the verse, the mantra says, Vijigupsa. You hate the world. You dislike the world. You disregard the world. You reject the world. Why would you do that? It's because of a certain abhorrence, a certain animosity. So as one spiritually progresses, you start appreciating, giving the due credit to any experience and say everything and every being has a nature of its own. What have I got to do with it? You say, I've got nothing to do with your personality. I've got nothing to do with a culture. I've got nothing to do with a particular religion. I've got nothing to do with what's happening out there. So you take a detached stance and you start seeing a sense of oneness. When you heighten that experience of experiencing oneness, you end up seeing Brahman in everything. Now, if you analyze that statement, you experience Brahman. So there are two factors. There is you, the individual, the experiencer, the Brahman, which is experienced. When you reach the state where you experience God, there you have crossed the extrinsic illusion and you have reached a state of what is known as partial realization, Savikalpa Samadhi. You just have to jot down these terms. You're not necessary, you got to by heart it, just get the concept right. The concept is the plurality starts disappearing. Like, for example, in the initial stages, you may, as a spiritual practitioner, you look at people as different, practicing different religions. Or he is a Christian, he's a Muslim, he's a Buddhist, he's a Jew. You may say he is a Catholic. You start seeing differences, isn't it? You say he is a Sikh. You see people as different individuals taking different parts. But the same thing, you may say, at some stage, we're all spiritual practitioners, having different beliefs, having different idols, but we're all seeking the same truth. So all the difference of seeing someone as an Islamic or a Christian or a Buddhist or a Jewish, all that disappear. We say, we're all seeking God. Then what about those who don't see God? Majority of them are not seeking God. Then you will start saying, doesn't matter whether you see God or not, you are still a human being, isn't it? The fact that you're a human being, I identify with you, we are all one. You can be the best of souls or the worst of souls. You are a human being, I identify with you. I bow down to you, I prostrate to you. I see the self in you. But I may not be able to see the self in a bat or a rat, especially a cockroach. Oh, you. How to see Brahman in a cockroach? Imagine, how can you see cockroach and Brahman same, sir? You may have a Vijigupsa, you may hate a cockroach. But someday you will come to see the Brahman in a cockroach and then get rid of the cockroach from the house. That's okay. You can't entertain it as a special guest in the house. You have to get rid of it, throw it out. But still you will not kill it with hatred. You understand it can't live with me. If I entertain it, then it will breed far faster than me, then I'll have to evacuate the house. Therefore, either it lives or I live. Since I have to live, you have to go out. You are not the guest anymore. You throw it out. That's okay. But there is no hatred. So the love, I'm repeating, first you may see people as different practitioners, different religions, different faiths. There's a difference. that becomes, we're all seeking the spiritual path. But then you don't identify with those who are not seeking the path. Then you rise to the level and say, we're all human beings. And beyond that, you start saying you identify with all living beings. And then you identify with the entire world. And when you identify with the entire world, you see a oneness, you see everything is a reflection of God. Everything is an expression of the Brahman. And that state is partial realization. But there, as I've said, there is two there. But once you put a little further effort, as the text states, you put little effort, you will cross that extrinsic illusion, and then you will get to the intrinsic, you cross intrinsic, and then you get to realization. So the intrinsic illusion is where you experience two, which is you and world. That disappears. Only non-dual. Non-dual means not two. Not two means only one, which is only Brahman remains, so that even the last element of the ego, which an individual possesses, disappears. So it is what in effect is happening in the spiritual field is the ego is getting liquidated and liquidated and liquidated. Now, if I have a very strong concentrated orange syrup, very strong, and if I add a liter of water into a liter of orange syrup, and if I offer you, you'd say, Guruji, this is very, very strong. Why is it so sweet? It's too strong. Because of 1 liter of concentrated orange syrup with just 1 liter of water, the water doesn't dilute the orange syrup at all. Imagine I start pouring more water into that 1 liter of orange syrup. From 1 liter, I put 10 liters. What happens to the concentration of the orange syrup? Obviously, the concentration is not as strong as it was with 1 liter. I pour 50 liters. What happens to the orange syrup? Orange syrup there, you may start experiencing a little flavor of orange in that 50 liters of water in that 1 liter of concentrated orange syrup. Now I make it to 100 liters. I pour 100 liters of water into that 1 liter of a concentrated orange syrup. What happens? Gone. There's no more orange syrup at all. You say, I only taste like plain water, sir. What juices have you offered? You have not offered me any juice, it's plain water. So what happens? So the ego here is the concentrated orange syrup. So when it's not liquidated, it becomes more pronounced. But when it's liquidated, when it spreads with identification with others, there's no more ego. You become one with the totality. That is self-realization. Are you following, Ma? 1 minute. Could you just unmute yourself? Yes, please.
Yeah, I follow. So first you have to cross extensive illusion.
Extrinsic.
Extrinsic,
yes.
Extrinsic illusion. That is nirvikalp samadhi.
Savikalpa.
That is sarvikalp. Extensive is sarvikalp.
Not sir, savi.
Savikalp samadhi.
Correct. Yes.
You have to cross first the extensive, and that is partial.
Yes.
And then you come to intrinsic, and
Correct.
that will be full.
Total realization, full realization.
Thank you, Guruji.
All right. Thank you. Most welcome. Ashama. Yes, ma. Yes, ma.
What I understood was Savikalpa Samadhi is extrinsic illusion. Nirvikalp Samadhi is intrinsic illusion. So after that comes self-realization. What Samadhi is that?
Savikalpa Samadhi is partial realization.
Okay, okay.
Okay. Savikalpa Samadhi is partial realization. Nirvikalpa Samadhi is total realization. They're just two terms that we're introducing. You just have to add that into your spiritual dictionary. Okay, ma.
Thank you. Pranam.
Right. Most welcome. No, I don't understand why are we breaking ahead with this, because either way we don't understand what that is. It's not that having understood, we have understood. No, I myself have not understood. I don't know how you say, yes, sir, thank you, I understood. I don't know. I want to ask you, what have you understood after that? No, and that doesn't mean we should not ask. Please, I am most welcoming. I am the person who said, please ask any questions. But thereafter, it's a matter of information. What we need to understand is start seriously working on the ego that is constantly a couple of steps ahead of whatever you do. It's like your shadow. Before you come, your shadow comes. Get rid of your own ego that is completely engulfing you. How can I liquidate it? So the goal should be, how do I reach that state of partial realization? Because that is where you see the reality. All right. Correct. Yes, Ashama. You're right. Enna Hariji, Solungo.
Guruji, can I say that when I cross over the extrinsic illusion and I'm in the stage of intrinsic illusion, then it is called partial realization. Because when a man is partially realized, he is still in the intrinsic illusion. When I cross over the intrinsic illusion and don't have any more illusion, neither extrinsic nor intrinsic, then it is called Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Because when I am in the partial realization, I am still having an illusion, that is me and Brahman. There is a small layer of separation. When I am in the Nirvikalpa Samadhi state, there is no more illusion, neither extrinsic nor intrinsic.
I'll answer your statement in 3 words. You can say.
Thank you.
Because you started your comment by saying, can I say? I said, you can say. Any more questions? No, all of you also have an obligation to let us know when you reach that state of Savikalpa Samadhi. Reddy Garu, I know you're a very quiet person. Don't be quiet to the extent that we don't even know that you've reached that state. Huh? Then we will lodge an official complaint against you.
Pranam Guruji. Still, we are in the stage of information gathering. Trying to comprehend with the new words and understanding the basics. It needs a lot of groundwork, homework has to be done on reading and rereading of that.
Please, I have given you the reference. Fall back on that text, the Swami Ramatirtha's works.
Yes.
I'm happy to share that some of them have already got hold of the works, and those who have not put that effort in to get the hold of the works and get it from the horse's mouth, right from the very source itself. It's going to be a wonderful reading. I must say that. Okay, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Right. Thank you. Haresh, all okay? But I was ahead of you, huh? Any difficulty? Can you try now, Harish?
Hariom, Guruji.
Hariom.
I think you read my mind, Guruji. I was just going to raise my hand and you got me to it.
Okay, yeah, please.
The idea is to liquidate our ego as much as possible over a process of spiritual evolution. So when we are dealing with the world on a daily basis with different people in our lives, when we feel any kind of emotion, for example, we feel hurt or we feel sensitive about what they said to us or how they deal with us, does that mean that that's my ego which I have to work on? Which is why I feel sometimes, or one of us feels, when people feel sensitive or they feel hurt or they feel whatever they feel emotionally, does that mean we are egoistic, hence we are feeling these things?
Absolutely. See, ego expresses in many, many ways. And if you're not conscious of how it expresses, it would feel you disappointed. You experience that sense of you believe that the world wanting to listen to you, the world wanting to respect your view, the world wanting to toe to your line of thought, itself is ego. And we say that the world is not designed to function according to your whims and fancies.
Correct.
Therefore, what right have I got to impose my views on your thinking? So you be who you are. Why should I impose my views? You get it. I'm only trying to understand it from the question you're asking, because if you stand disappointed, why are you expecting the world to cater to you? Why can't you be self-sufficient? Test your ability to be self-sufficient. Keep away from the world and check how self-sufficient and self-reliant are you. And you realize we are very, very weak because we have become so dependent on the world for our peace and happiness. So today, when you say I'm happy, it's only because the world is being very courteous and kind to you. But when the same world turns around and becomes unkind or uncourteous or doesn't cater to you, what happens to your capacity to be self-sufficient? Our capacity, since we don't have that capacity to be self-reliant, we get affected. There was a Swami, it's a Chinese proverb, and there was a saint who was a very senior man, was well regarded in the community for the work he did. And there were always people who have a a difference of view. So a certain community never appreciated, they thought he was a nuisance to the society. But there was some very unique thing which he always remarked. When people used to go and praise him to the skies, all he said, "Is that so?" He only said, "Is that so?" "Oh, is it? Is that so? Is that so?" A time came, there was some issue in the community, and everybody started pointing finger to him that he was responsible for that incident. And people started accusing him, started almost trying to banish him from that community. All his reaction was, "Is that so?" And when the people realized that this great man had nothing to do with all that happened, when the truth revealed, they went and apologized and fell at his feet and said, "We're very sorry, we didn't understand your greatness." To which he said, "Is that so?" So why are you a slave to what others think and throw at you, my dear? Insulate yourself from the world and disregard whatever the world does. Why are you being swayed by the ups and downs, what the world puts you through? What the world can give you? Harish, what can you give me? You can give me love, you can give me hatred. Is there any guarantee that you'll not hate me tomorrow? No guarantee. No guarantee. So why should I be swayed by your love, or why should I be swayed by your hatred? Why should I? It's like a business. Can you tell me that a business will not go through profit and loss? Can you guarantee any business where it's not gone through profit and loss? That is the nature of the world. So when we understand what the world can put us through, it is best to insulate yourself from the world. Experience whatever the world puts you through, but be mentally self-sufficient. So I'm still with the same line of thought. I'm not digressed. Now, when you get affected by the world is because of your ego is either being fed or not fed. When your ego is fed, you're affected. When your ego is not fed, also you're affected. But when you insulate yourself from the world, whatever happens to you, you will realize you remain self-sufficient, you remain unaffected. And we don't know how silently our ego expresses. I remember my guru used to tell, whenever you buy a book, he says one of the ways of measuring how to choose a book. And he used to say, if the preface, he says, you just read the preface and by that you know whether the book is worth reading or not. Other day I was presented, I was given, a few people came and gave me a few books lying I want to read. And as I was told, I went and read the preface. Oh my God, there were more than 60 to 70 times that person has used I. In a preface, you use so much of I, it is not worth reading that experience of yours because so full of ego. Only ego is there written all over the book, not worth reading. But still I'm reading. Just telling you. You may share some wisdom of yours. Even in that you have an ego, man. And and just to quote him, he used to say, there was a man who traveled Europe and wanted to share his experience. Like yesterday, I was telling Setuji that he should write his experience of shortlisting of the various cars that are on offer in the market. I told him he can share his experience. Didn't I tell you, Setuji? Not that he is interested in cars, but he was just exploring because he wants to pick up a car. So I said, just capture experience. So someone went to Europe and he wanted to write a book about his experience of Europe many years ago. And it was wonderfully written, so beautifully captured. Everybody were enthralled by the way he could capture that experience of Europe. But there's somebody who read that book very objectively and said, everything is perfect. But the only thing I would like to change is the title of the book, he said. The title of the book he wrote was The Europe I Saw. That was exactly the title, The Europe I Saw. And his recommendation was, instead of the Europe I saw, it should be the I who saw Europe. Because there's more of I than Europe in the book. You get it? So there is no difference of this ego. Then you find ego clashes you have. There's no difference between the two. It's just that your very subtle ego you are presenting. Other is a gross, egoistic, self-centered expression. I would say there's no difference. Obviously, it's a subtler expression, but it is still ego. So you need to be mindful that ego is there everywhere. Wherever we go, as it's like a shadow, it's following us. But hopefully, when you keep liquidating it as you're conscious of it, you're conscious of it. You know, like I don't want to be more explicit than that, but as you become more conscious of it. And it's easy to identify where others have an ego. It's difficult to identify where you have an ego. So you have to be constantly be told. But when you're told, you're not receptive. Why you're not receptive? Because of ego. So it's a catch-22 situation. You would not know where you have an ego. If somebody tells you you're being egoistic, you will not take it because your ego is impeding you to receive that higher knowledge. So God help you. But tell me where there is no ego in your transaction. I bow down to the transaction with the world. That's the reason, when artists perform, they lose themselves in the performance. They don't even have the thought that they are performing. That's when they bring out the best performance. I've heard from many artists who say that when they're on stage, they don't have that notion that I am doing. They just let the talent flow. So they separate themselves from that exhibition, what they're performing. And that's when true music, true melody comes out. So even temporarily, when you have no ego, you bring the best out of you. And also whenever there is no ego, you are accepted and loved by everybody. You express your ego, nobody wants you. Example of when there's no ego, you are taken care of. Can you think of an example, Harish? One of it, I know you may not have that much experience of, but still. But I don't have an experience of.
Perhaps when we are doing, let's say, fulfilling our obligatory duties with absolutely no expectations in return.
You're being too philosophical.
Okay.
Example, when you have no ego, you're taken care of. A classic example is when you are a child. A child has no ego, isn't it? And whenever you interact with a child, it's that innocence, it's that purity, it's that no assertiveness. It's just they're themselves, and that's why you even sometimes don't mind plucking their cheek. It's so sweet, so cute you are. That kind of a genuine. They become embodiment of love themselves. It's not that they're loving you, but they become an embodiment of love because they have no ego. They're loved by the world because they become the embodiment of egoless state. So any child is taken care of. You will never find a child neglected or left on the roadside. And people will never walk by a child if you find a child is alone. You will always walk up and take care of the child, provide. You will want to inquire. You look into, why are you alone? Where are you? Where are your well-wishers or your parents? Is there nobody there with you? That kind of a concern. It's outright stranger. Another state where you have temporarily no ego is when you are mad. That's why I said you and I may not have reached that state yet, but someday, because all wise people, they thought are mad fellows. So the more wise you become, the more mad you are from the world perspective. Because all what you do, they don't understand you. That's why they say a spiritual man is, they call him as Unmattavat. Unmattavat means a mad person. He is like a mad person. Balavat, like a child. A wise man is like a madman because you don't know where he is, which mental state he is, where is his mind. You don't have access to his experience. Sometimes he's with you, sometimes he's in a realm which you don't know. And he'll be gazing into thin air and looking at somewhere. What is he looking at? Somewhere he's just looking, don't know where his mind is. And also temporarily when you are intoxicated, also there's no ego, isn't it?
Yeah.
So temporarily you will find, I've had people coming and sharing this experience that they went to a party and they haven't driven, they took a cab and so intoxicated that he lost his senses. So he left his jacket with his wallet and mobile in the cab. He got done and walked off. And the driver, when he realized later in the day that this jacket was left, and our friend was oblivious what happened, he is in his heavenly state. Next morning, the driver comes back and he returns the jacket with the valuables, and there's a lot of money in the wallet. He returns it. It's not the act of driver that's being commended here. It's the act where you have no ego. So the world comes to help. The driver got down, helped him to take him to the door. Stranger, but yet you get help. So being spiritual is being less egoistic. That's all. And the moment you present your ego to the world expresses itself as a competition or a friction. So it's not the point whether the world has ego. The question is, how much ego do you present to the world? So the moment your ego is maximum, the world gives maximum friction. When your ego is less, there is less friction and more harmony. And that's what we are saying. A person who reached that state of partial realization has no hatred, no animosity, no aversion. There is no disharmony with the world at all, because he has successfully attained that state where everything has merged into that Brahman. So there's no otherness. Okay, Harish?
Yes. I would like to ask one more question on this note, if it's okay.
Yeah, please.
It's all very clear, Guruji. Now, in contrast, Guruji, sometimes we see people in the world use the terminology, he's so thick-skinned. That's a term, we say such a thick-skinned person. Sometimes the person who has a big friction with you will still come up to you next day to your party or to your house like nothing happened. But there's so much damage done in that relationship. Next day, they just come and behave normal with you. And then they say, oh, he's such a thick-skinned fellow. He's got no shame. For example, is that the fact that the person's coming up to you and being normal despite all the nonsense that was created before, does that mean that person has less or no ego, hence they've come back to just connect with you like nothing happened? Because there are all kinds of people in the world trying to understand how to navigate human psychology. So I'm just wondering, how do we assess it? So somebody came up to me after a big argument and accusation yesterday, like nothing happened, just sitting with me and having a meal in the common table at a party. What do I make of this individual, Guruji? Thick-skinned or shameless or a non-egoistic person? That creates a bit of confusion at the reaction sometimes. So I wanted to further clarify this on the ego note, which I totally understood on the first part.
I was seeing Rajima trying to say something. You know, Rajima?
They're utterly selfish, Guruji.
Oh, I thought they're highly spiritual fellows. I really don't know. It's very, very difficult to brand somebody as a particular thing, you know. But it's all important, Harish, is to take that fresh measurements. Remember, we take the example of Bernard Shaw, take fresh measurements and live in the moment. Whenever you're in the moment, just live in the moment.
Yeah.
Remember the quality we all should practice. What is that quality which comes to the surface in the context? I'm answering a question.
Just be yourself, be humble, no matter what.
See that argument could be with your spouse, it could be with your child, it could be with your neighbor, it could be with your parent, it could be with somebody out there who is very near and dear to you. There's no guarantee that you won't have a misunderstanding. But when that happens, you don't have to hate the sinner. You hate the sin, but not the sinner. Why are you not able to go beyond the sin and accept that sinner? You hate the quality in a person, but why are you hating the personality?
Yes.
So if you're able to snap that quality there and end it and just move on, you have no problem. But we allow it to linger and linger and linger and bother and hurt and pinch and prick and starts bleeding and starts hurting and starts killing. That same prick can destroy you, no? It's like stabbing you. Every time it stabs you. Why? You're giving it that freshness. You're lingering. You're constantly living, brooding over it. But if I hate that quality, I hate that quality in you, Harish, but I love you as a person. Huh. It has nothing to do with what you are, but I hate that quality in you. I end it there. Come on, next. When are we going for our holiday, Harish? Man, this fellow is psycho. Just now he comes and tells me that he hates that quality in me. And next time he says, when are we going for a holiday? Nothing gone wrong with this fellow. So either that fellow is, as Rajima has said, extremely selfish or extremely spiritual fellow. That you have to decide. Whether extremely tamasic fellow or extremely sattvic fellow. Because both of them behave the same way. They are all the time in the moment. Isn't it, Rajima? Rajasic fellow is one who's constantly lingering, brooding, living in that experience. They make it a mountain of a peanut. Why are you making a mountain of an issue out of a peanut? You can just hate that quality. You may be very upright. I don't like that quality. Full stop. But if that person presents himself, you will understand that is his swabhava and move on. Don't allow it to bother you. But you hate that quality. Let's say if I hate procrastinating things. Other day I had to pull up someone and say, how can this happen? I will not tolerate this. If you can't do it, tell me, I will take it myself and do it myself, I told. And as many words as that, I say, this cannot happen. Full stop. That doesn't mean I must hate that person. Nothing to do with the person, man. What has it got to do with the person? Here we are trying to rise to the level to reach Savikalpa Samadhi, where you must see Brahman in that person. Where is that, Harish? And where is hating the sin and not the sinner? You got to start practicing it, hate the sin, not the sinner, and ultimately see Brahman in that person. So now we know where we are in our relationship with the world. Is there an abhorrence with the world, or is there an opportunity to say, I hate the quality, but not the personality? And then you slowly rise to a level to say, you see the Brahman in the very same personality. One thing is to climb a flight of stairs. It's yet another thing to scale the Mount Everest. That is also taking a few steps forward, higher up. But as you grow higher, it becomes impossible. You become breathless. That's a different. It's just you may aim same breathless if you climb a flight of stairs, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're catching your breath. Why? Because you've climbed 3 stairs, the 3 floors. Lift is out of order. You climb 3 floors. You will know how fit you are. There is a world of difference. So world gives you enough opportunity to practice Vedanta. The question is, are you a student of this knowledge? And the world constantly tests you where you are. You don't need any further test. The world keeps testing you. If you're a student, you will always test. It's like a sportsman who tests his talent in an arena. You go to a playground and test how talented you are in a playground, isn't it? Theoretically, you will not know. But only when you start playing, you know how well you are equipped in the game. All right.
Crystal clear, Guruji. Thank you very much.
Thank you.